Can you build your team around Brock Purdy?
I don't think you can. Everything has to be perfect. And they had the Avengers last year, and it was unbelievable. You know how difficult it is to keep those things together? We're seeing that this year.
Has this been a season where you think that, yeah, maybe we need another quarterback next season? Well, game right there, missed tackles, injuries. Drake Greenlaw went down to the fourth play of the game, and I kept thinking to myself, I saw enough from Drake Greenlaw in the first half against the Rams to not see him again for the rest of the season. Now we got knee tightness, we got a calf, we got everything. Aaron Banks gets hurt, D. Winters got hurt. Guys are dropping like flies. Shasky, that game, in its totality, was the perfect description of the 49ers 2024 season.
The kicker, geez Louise, so you want to talk about one of the worst draft picks. This kicker is just, he's terrible. Like, there's no one in the Bay Area can listen to me without nodding their head. The kicker's terrible. He's terrible. He's terrible. Poor guy.
I can't defend him.
And then Deebo, you're bringing up Deebo. Deebo had 3 chunk plays called back because of penalties. Ricky Pearsall, almost consecutive. I think it was like 2 and like
2 straight
3 plays.
Yeah.
Illegal formations that wipe away big games. They're going to be on like the 5 with a Deebo play on third down that actually Brock made a nice play on. And then we get to the quarterback. And look, man, I know you and I have argued and we've been at each other's throats over like the money and not having the money. I'm telling you this right now, and I mean this with all my heart. Is the season on Brock? Absolutely not. Was the game on Brock? Absolutely not. It's bigger than that. Protection up front has been spotty at best. At best.
It was awful yesterday.
Bonte, you could tell me Brock Purdy is playing for free next year, and I'm telling you, that's great. That's awesome. I want him to come in at some point and wear a 49er uniform. But I also have to draft a quarterback or I have to bring someone else in. Like, that is where I'm at on this. Like, I have more questions than answers with Brock Purdy. Has he deserved a pay raise? Sure, absolutely. And I know that we'll get into the money, and we've got 6 months or however long until he gets his money. I am telling you right now, Joe Shasky, and I'm putting my name on it. If God is my witness, if they don't bring in a quarterback, it doesn't even have to be to compete for the start. To push him at minimum, push him. They've got to. I've got so many questions about the quarterback. He has played spectacular. And then this year, if I just take this year, he has left a lot to be desired. And they had the ball with under 2 minutes to go. It's the 2-minute warning. And all you have to do is go down. I couldn't believe Miami said, you know what? We're kicking a field goal. We don't think you're going to get 6. Because I'm thinking, if they're playing in the division with Josh Allen, they got to go for that 4th down maybe. There's no way you give him the ball, only needing 6 points to take the lead. And they said, we don't think Brock Purdy can go the distance. And then he just throws a ball that he has you don't need to throw. You have all 3 timeouts. You're at the 50-yard line. Essentially, you've got all the time in the world. It's just an unnecessary play. And yes, the protection up front was terrible, but he's got to be better than that. And I feel like more times than not, he's had the ball with opportunities to drive this team down and win. And for a variety of circumstances, he's come up short.
He has come up short this year. But they're, as you mentioned, and look, the 49ers are probably going to bring in a quarterback. They're not going to bring in, I highly doubt they're going to bring back Brandon Allen and Josh Downs.
No, they cannot.
So that, to your point about bringing in another quarterback, I think that's a foregone conclusion. But are you going to bring in another quarterback to start? That's the juicier question. Are you bringing in a quarterback to replace Brock Purdy? I'm not. And I hear all the numbers and all the records since the Baltimore game and this and that, blah, 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 blah. I look at the roster right now. This offensive line is a mess.
No question.
This offensive line is a mess. There's not going to be many quarterbacks who are going to be able to function behind an offensive line like this, but you're asking them to with the money he's getting paid. And a lot of quarterbacks are getting paid this type of money who can't function behind an offensive line like this. I thought Brock Purdy made some great plays yesterday. I felt like I had a quarterback saying, you know what, if I go into next year, Brock Purdy, I'm good with as a starting quarterback with the 49ers. I'm really good with it. And the money's going to be the money. You can structure the contract in a way where you're front-loaded, you make it team-friendly, or Brock gets his money, and you have all type of opt-out clauses. They'll get creative with the contract. I truly believe that. But Brock Purdy yesterday, when I'm watching him, yeah, the pick was bad. He got hit while he threw it. He tried to make a layer throw. Not the smartest decision in the world, but I thought Brock played very inspired football yesterday. I thought he played excellent football for the most part. So when I walked out of that game, my biggest takeaway, Shasky, wasn't the quarterback. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about him after throwing the pick, and there is something to him not being able to rally in the fourth quarter of league game-winning drives. But I look at right tackle, center, left guard, and I said, how the hell can you roll back with that?
Well,
you have to roll. You have to bring back. And if you, like I see a text right here, Kirk Cousins to the rescue.
No.
Well, you put Kirk Cousins behind this offensive line. You're not throwing for 313 yards.
Yeah.
So Brock Purdy's escapability and his scrambling ability actually helps you behind an offensive line like this. You have to do that. And then the miscues, the penalties, they've got to do something about this. It's just too much laundry on the field.
11, and there were more that were unaccepted. It's so bad. Special teams, another false start on a punt. I mean, it's a variety of issues every single week. The reason why I'm hyper-focused on Purdy, and again, this is just my belief. Look, I thought he had moments where he played okay, and then they get down into the red zone, and they've got an opportunity to score a touchdown right before the end of the half, and he's super predictable, staring down George Kittle, and everybody knows he's a little smaller, and boom, ball gets tipped at the line. That should have been a touchdown. You could see the frustration with Kyle Shanahan, and the thing that he hung his hat on for like a year and a half, decision-making, accuracy. And both of those have been spotty at best this year. And that's why I'm so, I think he is a huge question mark. Health is a question mark. I think his confidence is a question mark.
Yeah, I think his confidence is fine. I saw a confident quarterback yesterday.
I don't know, man.
I saw a confident quarterback yesterday. I'm not to cut you off, but I think his confidence is back. I thought he made good decisions yesterday, but I also know that, look, man, you know what I got yesterday? You know the vibes I got? And the season didn't go the same way, but I got 1991 San Francisco 49er vibes yesterday, where things just did not go. Now, that team won 10 games. They ended up going 10-6, and they lost a tiebreaker for the NFC West Championship. But they had what did they have, like a 5-game winning streak to end the season? They were not good that year. They had the Hail Mary, Billy Joe Tolliver, Billy Joe Tolliver, I believe his name was, back with the Atlanta Falcons when he threw the Hail Mary at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. That season just went awry. Just not a lot of things went well. And they missed the playoffs that season. And it was kind of an exception to the rule with those 49ers. That's the type of vibe I got yesterday where I was just like, they're going to find a way to lose this game. Oh, I felt like that in the second quarter.
But isn't that, to me, that's also, again, it's yes, the offensive line, there's no question that's an element. And I don't diminish how important it is to have a great offensive line.
Sasky, they're rolling out.
They had to watch Jennings, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel cooking all in the same game.
They also have Patrick Taylor Jr. playing running back for you. 8 carries, 24 yards. So what? You need a threat back there.
You had the ball with 2 minutes to go.
You're not running the ball well. You're heading off to your fourth running back of the season. Patrick Taylor Jr.'s your running back yesterday.
Bonte, everyone's got issues.
The teams with the issues are not going to the playoffs. The teams with issues are not going to the playoffs.
When I've asked this guy to rise to the occasion, I think that he's come up kind of meager. There's a handful of games where he's risen to the occasion. Second half, the first LA Ram game, I thought he was really good. And outside of that, it's like he's had multiple fourth quarter opportunities to do something, to be a swashbuckler and lead this team down, and he's failed to do so. And you talked about how they've been snake bit all year. Last year, if they have that exact same game, I am convinced they're winning it. They're finding a way to win. And I'm with you. I felt the same way. I had zero confidence that they were going to win that game. Zero.
Yeah, I'm not as outraged because I understand the circumstances right now. You guys can call me carried. You guys can call me soft, whatever it is. That team is so damn depleted. The fact that they went out there and gave it a try, it didn't get blown out. I was like, you know what? You play with spirited effort. I know we're asking pros to do that who are getting paid millions of dollars. But I actually walked away from that game saying, I'm okay with Brock Purdy being my quarterback in 2025. I'm totally fine with that. Because I do believe the offensive line will be improved next season. Do I have facts about that? No, I do not. I'm assuming that it will be better. It can't be worse. It can't be worse than what I'm watching here. The receiving core hopefully will be better. Ricky Pearsall has got to figure it out. You can't line up wrong twice. I mean, that's unacceptable. And it's been a lost year. And it's a lost year for Ricky Pearsall. And that's a draft pick we're going to talk about for a long, long time. Jake Moody missing a kick. I can't defend him no more. I can't defend that. I can't.
Shanahan looks so livid on the sideline multiple times. And then Ricky Pearsall, who's the position coach that was yelling at him?
Oh, Leonard Hankerson.
Wow.
Canes legend.
Would you say Canes legend?
Canes legend.
I can't remember the last time I saw a position coach on the Niners choose someone out like that on the sidelines.
No, absolutely. He deserved it. He deserved it. You have to make that kick. So all the momentum goes out the window there. You don't score at the end. And then we'll look at these two picks at the end of the third round. Jake Moody and Cameron Latu were your third round picks at the end of the third round, 99 and 101.
Is Latu even in the NFL?
No, not even in the NFL.
I mean, he was a blocking tight end at, what was it, Alabama?
Georgia. Alabama. Alabama. Dwan Jones, offensive line, 111 with the Cleveland Browns. It would have been great. When I think about offensive line, I'm like, damn, you kind of need some offensive linemen here. So, anyway, the Jake Moody pick is not going well. The Cameron Latu pick is not going well. The offensive line is getting beat up. The Dre Greenlaw calf, 4 plays got shut down. 4 plays. Leonard Floyd gets hurt. So, to me, it was just 888-957-9570. Shasky's outraged. I'm not, because it felt like that's the way this season. If I had to just tell the story that 2024 season, I'm popping the tape from yesterday and saying, watch this game.
So your point is well taken in the sense of like, look, it's a snake-bitten year. But part of how I judge people in life is like, hey, if you face some adversity, how do you react?
Right.
Do you stand up to adversity? And I just feel like more times than not this year, the quarterbacks look meager. And I thought yesterday was a straight-up water pistol fight. It was not a shotgun fight. It was definitely not a knife fight. It was a water pistol fight.
No, I thought he drove the ball.
And Brock Purdy.
I thought Brock drove.
Everything was at the line of scrimmage.
I thought he had some good throws down the field, man. To George Kittle and Deebo.
There was a nice layered one over the top.
He had some nice little throws over the middle of the field, and he had some good deep shots. Or he did not many deep shots, but intermediate throws down to George Kittle, down to Seam and Deebo Samuel. So I thought Brock Purdy played well yesterday. I really do. 26 of 40, 313 yards. He didn't have a running game. Didn't have a running game whatsoever. I mean, and we know the Niners, they want to run the ball. They want to get the running ball. They want to control the line of scrimmage. They didn't do that yesterday. They got punked at the line of scrimmage yesterday.
I find this like we do this exercise, and you're not the only one that's. I
mean, Miami ran the ball for 166 yards on 30 carries. You got the line of scrimmage controlled by the Dolphins.
So he needs to have perfect running game.
No, we're not.
Offensive
No,
line
nobody said everything.
Can evaluate him. He's got
nobody said
tight end having one of the great years, and it's like I'm saying he's got weapons out there. We just need one drive in a throwing situation. Okay, where you don't need to run the ball. Where you got full 2 minutes.
Who's the better quarterback on the field yesterday?
You got to find a way to win that game.
Who's the better quarterback on the field yesterday?
I thought Tua was.
No, he wasn't. No, you don't. No, there's no chance he was the better. Brock was the better quarterback on the field yesterday.
Tua didn't turn it over. Anytime that they came close to him, he threw it into the ground.
Brock Purdy was the better quarterback.
If you're going to be a game manager, you have to manage the game.
After watching that game yesterday, Brock Purdy was the better quarterback. Now, Tua, outside of 4 quarterbacks again, similar. Outside of Josh Allen, outside of Mahomes, outside of Burrow, outside of Lamar Jackson, most quarterbacks in this league need things to go well for them around them. Offensive line play needs to be stellar, right? Running game needs to be functional. The running game yesterday wasn't even functional. I mean, this is the worst running game I've seen in a couple of years for Kyle Shanahan. I mean, it was awful. Patrick Taylor Jr., no juice in the backfield. So you got that going on. I'm not going to exonerate Purdy for throwing the interception. It's a bad play. And I would have liked to see him come back and rally. But at the same time, thinking to myself, okay, I saw the effort. How did they lose? Well, they lost going out on their shield. So I'm not going to be outraged when the playoffs are already over. They were eliminated for playoff contention before the game. Brock Purdy, honestly, is that a game where you say, I can't roll with Brock Purdy at 2025?
That game looks so much like Jimmy. That's what that game looked like to me. It's like, he made a couple plays, and then when push came to shove, he was up against the wall, and they needed to score a touchdown with a nice drive at the end, and it's like, you can't do it. Like, it's pretty black and white to me. Like,
let me ask you this
guy to make a drive in the fourth quarter, he has failed to do it for multiple months now.
All right, he's failed to do it on this team with this roster. We've seen him do it multiple times before in the biggest moments.
Yeah, Bonte, if I just look at this year, he has been, like, very mediocre. Like, it's okay to admit it. He's not been a top 10 quarterback. We could talk about what he's done in prior seasons and all that. This year, he is not good enough.
But why is that? Why hasn't he been good enough? I don't think
his play has been as good. His
play has not been as good.
Like, there was a great example. Juwan James is wide open on a little curl route, and he just
he He hasn't hit the checkdowns this year
the
at all.
arm doesn't look right. The confidence isn't there. The decision-making isn't that great. It's been like he bears some of it. I'm not saying it's all on him, and I'm not saying he's the reason why they're losing. I'm just saying I have a ton of questions on the quarterback. I spent 2 years saying, no, this guy's an answer. He's a top echelon quarterback.
I still think he's the answer.
All that back.
I still think he's the answer.
Yeah, I got major questions
I still
on him.
think he's the answer. Caught wind of it Friday, and then it was made official Saturday, but Ricky Henderson passing away at the age of 65, and I don't think there's any doubt, no question whatsoever, that he is the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. Power, speed, the character himself. We don't see many characters like that. He talked in third person. Ricky Henderson has just the stories go on, and they're all great stories that make you smile. So, what Ricky Henderson meant to the city of Oakland, he was Oakland through and through, Oakland born, representing the town. Man, we lost a great one. We keep losing great ones this year. In 2024, man, we just lost some absolute juggernauts, man. Willie Mays, Jerry West, or we're losing Ricky Henderson.
When I was a kid, you used to hear this phrase like, oh, man, they died too soon or too young or whatever. And, there's never a good time to pass away. But you brought up, Willie Mays. Willie Mays did live to be 90 years old. He lived a really good life. And I think most people that I'm talking to in the airwaves right now, they say, man, if I could get to 90, you'd sign me up,
Yep.
And look, you probably roll your eyes because I say it all the time, but it's my dad was 1 year older than Ricky. And so to see Ricky pass away, it's like that one hit me like a sack of potatoes. I'm not an A's fan, never pretended to be one. Ricky Henderson is one of my favorite players of all time, and you're going to hear that from a lot of people. It's the style of play. Not a practice goes by when I'm coaching kids and we do base running in every practice. Do I not reference something from Ricky Henderson? I've watched all these MLB breakdowns with him and Harold Reynolds and Barry Larkin. I've seen individual ones with him and Tony La Russa that are on the internet. I've watched all of these different breakdowns on who Ricky Henderson was as a player and what he did as a base stealer and how he would do it. And it's like, this is something I think about all the time. The guy stole 130 bases in a season, got thrown out 60 times, okay? What would he have done if you could only throw over 2 times? What would he have done? What would he have done with slightly larger bases where every single pitcher in baseball doesn't know how to do a slide step? What would he have done when you could see the poor mechanics of the one knee down with all of these catchers who can't throw to second base nowadays? This guy would have broke more records. He broke the stolen base record, similar to Jerry Rice, at 31 years old. Not in his 40s. He broke a record smack dab in the middle of his career in his prime and crushed it and did it stealing third base, which is harder to steal than going from first to second in terms of the throw from the catcher. This guy is such an all-time player. I think he's on most people's top 10. No matter however you look, he's on most people's top 10.
Doubt.
How he wasn't unanimous is absurd. Then you talk about the style of play. Think about the era he came up in the 80s, early 80s. It was a very old school era. If you pimped a home run, if you flashed and you flared,
right,
guys were coming at you. He was so good, no one had a problem with it.
Nah, nobody.
And the collar,
well, think
the
about
way he
E40.
pimped the homers.
Think about E40. He started popping his collar. Why? Why? Ricky Henderson. The way he pimped his home runs, the way he stole second. He got walked. He basically, as Bully said Saturday, he had a triple. You know what I'm saying?
What the pressure he would put, because I think about nowadays, coming set and then throwing over. Think of the dance that he had. He was in dudes' domes, and now you can only throw over 2 times. Yeah. The guy would have 200 stolen bases in a year, for crying out loud.
I want to play this Harold Reynolds story on Ricky Henderson. Here's Harold Reynolds. This is a funny story.
It came down the last day of the year, and Willie Wilson and I were tied with 59. And we're playing in the same time zone at this time because I'm in Texas playing against the Rangers, and Willie's at home in Kansas City. And I steal a base early in the game, and the ticker tape, no, it wasn't ticker tape, but anyway, I find out Willie goes 0 for 5. He does not steal the bag. I end up being the stolen base champ. So Ricky probably had, I think, 30 stolen bases that year by May, and he got injured. And he's on his way to another 100 stolen base year. And he used to get on base at second. I would hold him on like a pitcher, like a first baseman. And he'd turn around and go, Rick getting ready to go now. Rick getting ready to run. What you going to do, Reynolds? Rick getting ready to run. And I'd be like holding him, going to the pitcher. He's running. And he'd just take off, do his thing. So I get home. I win the stolen base title. I have 60. Phone rings. Hello? No caller ID in those days. So hello? Henderson here. I said, hey, what up, Rick? I'm thinking Ricky's calling me. Congratulate me. This is unbelievable. What's going on, Rick? How you doing? I'm like, what you got? 60 stolen bases? You ought to be ashamed. Ricky has 60 at the All-Star break. Click. Hung up the phone. I just hear a on the other end. That was it. So in my office at MLB Network, he signed a poster for me years later. And it says, stolen base champ, Ricky Henderson.
And you hear stories about that all the time. And John Olerud's story, he's like, I used to have a teammate at first base who used to wear a helmet. Man. And then John Olerud goes, yeah, that was me. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, Ricky got to go. And Ricky goes, it's still second base, man. He was an iconic kid. They don't make him. He's one of one.
No question.
He's truly one of one.
Well, and the thing that, we haven't even talked about it. In left field, we used to do this. My dad hit me fly balls. Dad, hit me fly balls. We all wanted to catch it and snap it and flip the glove the way that Ricky did it. Yep. Ricky would catch, snap off the hip, flip it up. Like, he turned it into a whole thing. Bond started basically recreating what Ricky Henderson started. Everybody wanted to be like him. He was, and here's the crazy thing. I'm convinced, this is how sick my head is. I'm convinced had he chose football, he would have been like an Emmitt Smith level football player. And I know I'm not trying to disrespect Emmitt Smith. No. I am being dead serious. Whatever that man chose to do, I think he would have been one of the greats.
Well, he was a great football player in high school at Oakland Tech. And if I'm not mistaken, USC wanted him.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
His mom made him go play baseball.
The USC Trojans in the 70s that had already had O.J. Simpson and many other great running backs back in those days. He was going to go to USC and be a running back. Tailback you at the time. He would have been playing ahead of Marcus Allen. That would have been crazy. But he was made for baseball. We needed a character like that in baseball. He's an icon and probably left this world way too early, man. Way too early.
That was the thing that I kept coming back. Like, it hit me really hard, and I was just like, dude, A, way too young, and then B, pneumonia. Like, and I know Deebo got pneumonia earlier this year. Pneumonia is so scary. Like, it really is. And I don't know how he got it, and I don't know what ended up happening. But seeing him, because, to me, he is the face of vibrance and strength, and I thought he'd live forever. Yeah. Like, I really did. I thought that Ricky would live forever, and, we just saw him at the Coliseum, like when they had the final games, and he just looked so dapper and so clean, and he always had the big, strong forearms and the chiseled chin, and everything about him was so pristine, and the way he wore his jersey, it was like perfection. And that's why, to me, he's very much like Jerry Rice. Yeah. The longevity, the obsession with the game. This is a man playing in his 40s for some random independent league and probably still dominating. Like, he never, quote unquote, retired from baseball. Yeah, he never retired. Loved the game so much. Played for a million teams. I know you guys did on the post-game show. You were asking, and I know Bill Russell is one of the all-time greats. And I don't want to sound like I'm diminishing him. There have been some unbelievable players coming out of the East Bay in particular. But for me, and I would love to hear from East Bay residents, Ricky Henderson is the greatest Oakland athlete of all time because he played for the freaking A's and was twice and was just absolutely dominant. He's a top 10 player in a sport of all time. And your point about he's the ultimate leadoff here. On my starting nine in the history of the game, absolutely he's batting leadoff and he's in there.
Stolen base king, Ricky Henderson. May you rest in peace. All right, let's get to Samita Los Gatos, who showed her face at the Doobie Awards. Great to meet her in her A's jersey as well. Hey, if I'm not mistaken, was that a Ricky Henderson jersey?
It absolutely was.
Wow, Samita, wow. How ironic will we meet you? You got your A's jersey, and it's a Ricky Henderson one, and he leaves the world a few hours later. But it was great to meet you, Samita. Great to meet you.
It was really great to meet both of you, and it was a really wonderful event. I really, really enjoyed myself. I stayed around much longer than I intended to because good time.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come out. It really means a lot. Thank you.
No, I really appreciate what you guys do. And so I thought the event was really well planned, and it was just a lot of fun. So it was a really nice vibe in there. So it was really, really memorable and a good way to end the year, I think. Just wanted to mention, how much Ricky Henderson did for the game of baseball. I think the kind of personality that he had and the way he played the game, honestly, I think baseball is missing that.
Yeah.
I think it's missing that flair, the eccentricities. Everybody's too worried about, their bag and how it's going to play on social media, and nobody wants to kind of go out on a limb anymore. But, he was just unabashedly himself. So there's I think a 30 for 30 on Ricky Henderson. There's a podcast, which is really great, and talks about when he went and played in the minors for a while after he retired, just because he wanted to play baseball. This is how much this man loved the game, and I think we lose sight of that sometimes in the modern sports world, Totally. Niners, just real quick, they need to rebuild, guys. I don't know why we're talking about this piece and that piece. They need to strip it down to the studs and start over. And that means you got to look at every single player on the team and see whether or not they're going to fit the vision for what you want to do and where you want to go, and just start over. Because saying, oh, this guy got us to the Super Bowl, or this team did this on, a couple of years ago, I don't think that's going to work. I think you got to go all the way down to the studs and start all the way over.
Wow. Damn. Wow. All right, let's get to Samita in Los Gatos, who showed her face at the Doobie Awards. Great to meet her in her A's jersey as well. Hey, if I'm not mistaken, was that a Ricky Henderson jersey?
It absolutely was.
Wow, Samita. Wow. How ironic when we meet you. You got your A's jersey, and it's a Ricky Henderson one, and he leaves the world a few hours later. But it was great to meet you, Samita. Great to meet you.
It was really great to meet both of you, and it was a really wonderful event. I really, really enjoyed myself. I stayed around much longer than I intended to because it was a good time.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come out. It really means a lot. Thank you.
No, I really appreciate what you guys do. And so I thought the event was really well planned, and it was just a lot of fun. So it was a really nice vibe in there. So it was really, really memorable and a good way to end the year, I think. Just wanted to mention, how much Ricky Henderson did for the game of baseball. I think the kind of personality that he had and the way he played the game, honestly, I think baseball is missing that.
Yeah.
I think it's missing that flair, the eccentricities. Everybody's too worried about, their bag and how it's going to play on social media, and nobody wants to kind of go out on a limb anymore. But, he was just unabashedly himself. So there's I think a 30 for 30 on Ricky Henderson. There's a podcast, which is really great, and talks about when he went and played in the minors for a while after he retired, just because he wanted to play baseball. This is how much this man loved the game, and I think we lose sight of that sometimes in the modern sports world, Totally. Niners, just real quick, they need to rebuild, guys. I don't know why we're talking about this piece and that piece. They need to strip it down to the studs and start over. And that means you got to look at every single player on the team and see whether or not they're going to fit the vision for what you want to do and where you want to go, and just start over. Because saying, oh, this guy got us to the Super Bowl, or this team did this on, a couple of years ago, I don't think that's going to work. I think you got to go all the way down to the studs and start all the way over.
Wow. Damn.
Wow. Great call, Samita.
Hey, anybody else feel like that? Rip it down to the studs?
I have a buddy, Martin.
I love you, Samita, but I don't know if I'm ripping it down to the studs.
My buddy Yerbick, he is convinced that paying Brock Purdy signifies we're kind of rolling back a lot of the same stuff. And
I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does. I wouldn't go there yet. I wouldn't assume that Deebo's going to be back. I wouldn't assume that some of these guys are going to be back. I think this roster will look a little different. You have to evolve. That's the NFL. But can you keep Fred Warner around?
Well, I think there's a handful of guys that have to stay.
Right. And
Fred and Kittle.
Kittle definitely has to stay.
Deebo's going to stay.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Said on his podcast yesterday after the game that he thought it was 25% that he comes back. Now he thinks it's more like 50-50.
Because of that one game yesterday?
No, because he's been hearing from people about like there's a lot of they don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Aiyuk. They don't know what's going to happen with Ricky Pearsall, and he's still a very important, beloved player in that locker room. And his number is only $17 million next year. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I don't.
So I don't know. I'm just going off Mayoko. Like,
I don't know what they're going to do.
I have no feel.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to let that play out, but I'm eager to see what it looks like.
I'm just not ready to get rid of Deebo either, though.
Yeah, I want premium players. I think this whole thing looks differently if Christian McCaffrey's on the football field. We talk about gravity with Stephen Curry all the damn time. Well, the gravity of Christian McCaffrey has sorely been missed.
Yeah, but you can't bank on a 30-year-old running back coming back to life. Well, like they need to.
We know that now.
They want him back.
We know
that now. They need to have like your whole offense can't just be Christian.
No, I'm not even going by. I'm not even going by that next season. I'm going by this season, where you did plan on having Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
And he comes into camp, and a couple days into camp, you get the calf strain that later leads to bilateral Achilles tendonitis. Christian McCaffrey on his team for this season, and I'm not banking on him being the player that we saw in 2023 at all. That may be done. Who knows? That was a dream season for everybody involved.
I would draft a running back.
But Christian McCaffrey for this team this season and what they plan to do on this team was sorely missed.
There's no doubt.
Red zone efficiency woes are directly related to Christian McCaffrey's absence. And then the gravity that he does create for these other guys that can get open and don't have to worry about a linebacker underneath. You know what I mean?
So the irony is they still put up a ton of yards. Like I watched this offense. There is still chunk plays out there.
It's never been easier to get yards in this league.
That's true.
But scoring touchdowns is what separates the good from the great.
Well, and I think that's where I go back to Brock Purdy, Bonte. Like, I don't think his accuracy's been that great or his decision-making in the red zone. Do I love the play calling? Not really. But we expect everyone in the red zone, like, this should be your most creative, wide-open throw for a touchdown. Like, I thought Shanahan schemed up the Saubert touchdown brilliantly. It was a perfectly designed play. The guy was wide open. Boom. It's hard to do that to a defense, to have a perfectly wide open guy. Sometimes you got to look off this dude and hit Kittle, who's wide open for a touchdown. And that comes down to execution.
It comes down to execution. And again, I think we don't give. And look, I know a lot of people are going to be doom and gloom about Brock. I hear it. I see it. I read it all. But you got to remember, he had played every game with Christian McCaffrey. That's his guy. And we know how good Christian McCaffrey is. But the music, the sweet music that Brock Purdy and McCaffrey made together in the pass game and the run game, that I can't overlook this team and say, damn, the number one red zone weapon, not only on the 49ers, but possibly in the NFL. There's a short list. There's the Saquons, there's the Lamar Jacksons. There's all these guys in the red zone. Christian McCaffrey was up there. And I think we underrated that loss. We underrated the loss and what his absence would be for this offense. And we're seeing it play out in real time. We are. Let's just look at the red zone numbers. And then Brandon Aiyuk, I want to add that. I don't want to forget about Brandon Aiyuk. I think he was underrated by a lot of us out here in the Bay Area.
If you just isolated Purdy's play, right? Just isolated his play alone. Has his decision-making been great?
It hasn't been great.
Has his accuracy been as good?
It hasn't been as good. No.
Okay, so that's kind of where I fall down. I think the two things he hung his hat on haven't been as good this year.
But I also don't think it's that simple. Football's not that simple. It's a little more complexity to it. When your offensive line, we just played this out of Richard Sherman. He's talking about getting 3 new positions. That's Richard Sherman. Well, we got a problem with the offensive line, which is what has led to more scrambling and more indecisions and more trust issues for Brock Purdy. You're playing with Ricky Pearsall, who's not on the field a lot. So there's no chemistry there with Ricky Pearsall. That's a disappointment. We expected a lot more, but when you don't get on the practice field and things happen to you that, let's face it, he got shot and settled back 6 weeks. So now it's a lost season for Ricky Pearsall. When you don't have all those elements, sure, I'm not saying you need it to be perfect, but I understand why Brock Purdy is struggling. Now, the decision-making could be better. There's no doubt. I'm not exonerating him from that. But at the same time, I'm looking at the team around him saying, damn, this roster is depreciated rapidly in the last 4 months because of all the injuries and the things are happening. So I'm not ready to give up on Brock, I guess is what I'm saying. I think Brock is going to be solid.
Either, but I just think that I'm coming to the reality that He's not as good right now. He's not playing nearly as good as he was last year. Period.
Can't we see why though, Shasky?
Yeah, but
can't we see why?
You also still have enough playmakers out there.
I don't know if we have enough playmakers.
Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel.
We didn't think
those guys aren't enough.
Deebo Samuel just went through a stretch where he had 101 receiving yards in 5 weeks.
He's still a threat.
Deebo has not been a threat this year.
Well, he's still a threat.
Deebo has not been the.
And Juwan Jennings is having his best season by far. And George Kittle's having a monster year.
But Juwan Jennings having a great season doesn't mean he's a great player. He's just having a good season on this team. Ideally, Juwan Jennings is your number 3 or number 4 wide receiver.
I don't understand why everyone is so afraid to just say Brock hasn't been as good.
I'm not. I said it over and over. Are you not listening?
Stop baking in excuses.
I said it over and over.
He's not as good.
I've said it over and over. He has not been as good. I don't know what. Did I not say that? I said he has not been as good.
How can a Niner fan watch this team and think
he threw for 313 yesterday behind that offensive line and that receiving core? Deebo has not been good this year.
At the end of that game,
Deebo has not been good this year, has he?
Okay, so what?
Deebo, what you mean? So what? That's his playmaker.
They had the number 6 rusher for number 5 rusher for 7 weeks. They had a run game going. They
were battling for first place.
Came in and he was running it pretty well.
Garrido's okay.
They've had moments. They've still put up yards.
Garrido's okay.
Out there. The quarterback's been a little like. If you're going to be the number 1 position in sports, play quarterback, we've got to be able to fairly judge these things.
We are. Am I not? Am I not?
Yeah, I think you're afraid. I think you're afraid to critique them.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
That's the feeling I get.
No, I'm not. No, that's because of what you're listening to. I've critiqued them all season. All season. I've critiqued them about yesterday. But I also understand football's not just a one-man sport.
No one said it is.
It's a 53-man sport.
No one says it is.
And so if you have guys playing behind that offensive line, I understand there's going to be struggles.
Yeah, but
there's going to be struggles.
But then how come we don't extend that? For example, when we talk about Bosa, Bosa's been a huge disappointment. No one cares that they have no one else on the D line and he's getting triple teamed. He's been a huge disappointment, independent of the rest of that D line sucks.
What's baked in it with Bosa, in my equation, I won't speak for everybody.
Yeah,
what's baked into it is that Bosa has made multiple excuses.
No question.
And Bosa has shined a light on himself that has made everybody kind of step back and look and say, "Okay, dude. You got to play well because you're chirping a lot."
Yeah, but independent of all of that noise, he has been disappointed.
I haven't heard Brock Purdy make one excuse for the way he's played. I haven't heard him make one excuse.
Excuses. I just don't think he's playing that great.
But if he's not playing great, is he not playing great simply because we're seeing a massive regression in performance from him? Is it injury-related, or is it simply just because there are issues around him?
I think there's a lot internally for him.
I don't think it's just one thing with Brock.
No, that I agree with.
And that's why it's hard to really just really crush Brock for how this season's gone.
Thank you.
Because there's so many things going wrong around him.
I don't think I'm crushing him.
To Shasky's point, though, Brock has not lived up to the standard that he set for this team.
We had a top 10 lock quarterback, and I don't think that today.
I still think we do. I still think we have a guy that you could give the ball to in 2025 and lead this team to a lot of victories. But I also understand that he's not one of the golden 4 quarterbacks. All right? He's not one of those guys that's just going to put it all on his shoulders and make things happen. He needs his wide receivers to make plays. How many years and how many weeks have we discussed the wide receiver core failing to gain separation? Deebo had a great game yesterday. Thank God he did. Because the previous 5 weeks, Deebo had 101 receiving yards. So when you have Deebo Samuel not making plays, hell, if he makes a play last Thursday night and catches that pass against the LA Rams, we could be talking about a different situation with the 49ers. Now we could be talking about, oh my God, the Dolphin game. They're done. They're not going to the playoffs. Instead, we do that Thursday night, the previous week, because Deebo's dropping passes and he can't get open.
They still had opportunities to win the game, and they've had it from 2 months now, and the quarterback's had the ball in the second half, and he's left a lot on the table.
But he has, and I have not dismissed that whatsoever. But when you say he's got Deebo, he's got this, he's got that, well, Deebo's been a shell of himself. Ricky Pearsall can't get open.
Kittle's still an all-timer.
All right, Kittle's having a great year.
All-timer.
But Kittle can't do it by himself.
No one's saying he can, but part of when all these other quarterbacks around the league, forget the top 4, just the other quarterbacks. I'm seeing Herbert throw to a lad McConkey who just got into the league, and so Bo Nix is doing it with a lot of not special around him. Courtland Sutton's a nice player. George Kittle is an all-time player. So there are a lot of other situations around the league that I look at and I go, could be worse.
Well, the Chargers and Broncos have premier defenses. The Niners don't.
Well,
that's a big difference.
I thought they held Miami down pretty well yesterday.
but they have a premier defense.
It was 22 to 19 or whatever, 22-17 with 2 minutes to go, and you had the ball. So if you told me my defense was going to hold down Miami's offense to 22, I'd probably take that.
I thought the defense is okay. I thought Miami dictated tempo all day yesterday. I thought that was their game. They controlled, in my opinion, the tempo. Let's go to Rob and San Bruno. Rob, what's happening?
Good morning, fellas. Hey, first I want to say, y'all threw a great event.
Oh, Rob, yeah, thank you for coming through, man. Thank you for the kind words, man. It really touched me what you said Friday.
Oh, no, that's real talk. That's real talk. You too, Shasky. But, like I said, a great event. Met a lot of good people up there. And then Tony, man, whatever she be on, she need to pass that to me because she be on fire. But I met a good dude in Tyler. I met OG Gene. I met a few other cats I was talking to. I can't get connected to my head right now. Richie was a cool cat.
Great guy.
I met the owner, the big man. What's his name?
Sam.
Great guy.
No, the station director.
Matt Egan. Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna have to get in the weight room a little more. He lightweight strong. He's a bully out there, man. He be eating weights. It look like but look, man. Hey, Bonte, we gotta keep it real, man. There's 2 games in a row, 2 must-wins in a game in a row, and Purdy throws an interception to lose the game. Come on, man. His stats right now is 17 touchdowns, 14 turnovers with 10 interceptions and 4 fumbles. That's mediocre as it gets. Now, he has some great throws. He has some great times this year, but he has some bad times this year. When you average it all out, it becomes average. That's the type of quarterback he is. So it is what it is. And then I think people overreacting over the O-line. I'll give Kyle credit with this. Kyle has never really drafted high offensive linemen here except for McGlinchey. And that didn't really, it worked out, but it didn't work out. He wasn't that good, but we won.
Yep.
So I feel like this is Kyle. This is his family's offense. So they know what they want in their linemen. So I'll leave that up to him. It's a reason why he don't draft big guards in the first round, second round like that. He knows what he wants out of his offensive lineman. This is scheme, so you got to let him choose that. It's not like a power scheme. Say, just give me the biggest offensive line you got, and we're gonna move forward. They do a lot of pulling, a lot of movement, so they got to be agile. So I understand what people don't really understand because this offense is built off rhythm, the run game and the play action off of that. If the run game ain't working, there's only so many routes the Niners run that they quarterback can actually throw, and teams keying in on that. So you got to let him work that O-line because it's all about tricking the defense. That's what this offense is about. You know what I'm saying? But Purdy, he needs some work. Bosa, look, man. I'm putting him on the trade block. I'm doing everything possible to get 2 guys. I'm going for Travis Hunter. If we can lose every game from now on, and we can find a way to trade up to get Travis Hunter, or we gotta go to Shedeur Sanders. We gotta go one of those 2.
Where are you putting Travis? Are you putting him on defense or offense?
Man, to me, he a natural corner because his instincts.
Yeah,
he don't got to depend on the quarterback to get him the ball. But if you need to put him a receiver and run some little stuff, like he can run routes. So I think he can play receiver. But me personally, I like him at DB. I can move him at safety corner because he got good eyes. He got good instincts. So if we can do that, if we can try to move up to get, I want Hunter. But we can get a Shedeur Sanders, I'll take that too. But I want Travis Hunter. He's a game changer to me.
I don't see how that happens. I would love Travis Hunter.
The Niners right now would pick number 11 in the NFL draft. Number 11. By the way, the Raiders, how Raider fans feeling sport about winning that game yesterday?
I was hurting for Spadoni yesterday after that Raider win because I know how badly he wanted them to lose that game.
I was going up against Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, and Brian Thomas Jr. And
what are you talking?
What?
You talking fantasy?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was rooting against all of them.
Good clarification.
Oh, just got to make sure because I can't. I'm not allowed to talk fantasy football. I'm not allowed to talk fantasy football.
So I was watching that game with a keen eye on no one scoring. And when the Raiders scored, I was like, poor Spadoni.
Anyway,
shout out to those, Joey Curtin.
Shout out to the basketball program. Shout out to those watching on YouTube. Brought to you by First NorCal Credit Union for a low-rate auto loan. Apply online or just ask for First NorCal financing at the dealer. A lot of calls here. We're going to get right into it, Shasky. Niners lose to the Dolphins. They were eliminated from the playoffs before the game, but the form matters, right? I thought for the most part they played hard, which is, a pro team. I see some teams lay down at this stage of the season when they know they have nothing to play for. What went wrong? What went right? The trenches fails them once again. Brock Purdy throws the big pick to lose the game. Did you like the throw? Obviously, you didn't like the throw because it was a pick. But what do you make of Brock? Is that a game where you sit back and say, all right, yeah, we need a new quarterback next season? Has this been a season where you think that, yeah, maybe we need another quarterback next season?
Well, if I were to detach myself from all the money and I said he could play for free next year, I still bring in somebody. Like, I'm not saying to replace him, but to push him at minimum. At minimum, you've got to have better long-term, short-term alternatives than Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs. That's what I found out this year. Like, I really have. I have questions on his health. I have questions now on his accuracy and his decision-making, which were not a question heading into this year. Ball security has been a big problem, whether it's the turnovers, the fumbles, all that stuff. And then, like, I think that his limited size, makes it even more incumbent that he has to be a great decision maker. He has to be deadly accurate. And when those things slip a little, it's not going to look great. And I think that I have more questions about him than I ever had heading into the year.
Is this the norm for Brock, or is this an outlier? Is the norm last season or the season before?
I'm not going to say he can't bounce back, right? Because what I saw was excellence, damn near excellence for 25 games. Like excellence, some of the height of the position that I've seen. But he's also put together about 20 games now where it's been real iffy. And I just think that if you're being fair with these things, if you don't have questions.
20 games?
Yeah. You're looking at, since the Baltimore game, you got about 19 games, basically, of a guy who has more turnovers than touchdowns. That's not good.
Well, playoffs are going to be tougher, but I also
That's three of them.
But I also see rallies in back-to-back playoff games. When you needed a drive in the playoff game, I mean, the Green Bay game, I think erases everything. He played excellent in the fourth quarter. You got the win. You advanced to the NFC Championship.
He also dug a big hole by playing very poorly for 3 quarters.
But you dug yourself out of that hole. Not a lot of quarterbacks would. I've seen Aaron Rodgers dig himself a hole, never get out of it in the playoff game. The greats of the greats have failed in the playoffs. Failed. This guy rallied you against Green Bay in the rain and then rallied you from a 24-7 deficit against the Detroit Lions.
Okay, those were two games last year.
Those are monster games.
Okay, what has he done this year?
Those are just not 2 games. Those are do-or-die games at home in the playoffs. This year's been a struggle for him. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt he hasn't played his best football. But I also realize that the context matters too. And I understand why he hasn't played his best football. There's a lot of other stuff going on his football team that has contributed to spotty play all around. Like Fred Warner has not had his best season. Now, we give him credit because he's played on a fractured ankle, but he hasn't had his best season. Nick Bosa has been healthy for the most part and wasn't producing a great season. Now he's hurt, and now we can't expect anything from him because he's just not doing anything. So everybody, Deebo Samuel has been one of the biggest disappointments on this roster.
Sure, and everyone's ready to run him out of town.
That's one of Brock's primary weapons. One of his primary weapons.
Jennings is having a monster year.
Jennings is having a good season, no doubt. Kittle's having a very good season, no doubt. But your first-round pick, Ricky Pearsall, has 190 receiving yards.
Yeah, but he came into the season as the 4th or 5th option.
Well, he's wide receiver. He's a first-round pick.
Sure.
And they said, and from all the reports from people who cover the team.
Yeah.
This guy's the best route runner on the football team. He's going to have
what does that have to do with Purdy being inaccurate?
No, it has to do with Ricky Pearsall not being open.
Okay.
Not being able to get off a press man. Do the Niners receiving corps not have the worst separation rate?
Well, no, so that's actually an incorrect stat because you keep citing it, and yet when you dig a little deeper, it's when the ball is thrown to them, what is their separation? Not at any point on their route tree.
No, I understand what it is. No, I understand what it is. No, I understand what it is.
For example, Juwan Jennings, there was 4 different plays that people cited in the comment section of the numbers you're citing, where people are like, well, Jennings had 3 steps on this guy, and because of a poor throw, it gets marked down as 0 separation, when in reality, he had 6 yards of separation before the ball was underthrown.
There's been underthrows, Shasky, but you watch the game just like me.
Okay.
They can't get off a press man. Their separation of the line scrimmage is awful.
I'm not here to say that there's some ridiculous man beater. I'm just saying that Purdy hasn't been great.
It's the book on them. They can't get off a man coverage.
The book on Brock right now currently
he's not
I'm going to sit down. I'm going to press those guys because we don't think that you have the guts to throw beyond the numbers down the field, and then we think that if we keep you in the pocket, we're going to stick our hands up because you're only going to throw over the middle on crossers and on slants.
They've got no birders on the outside. They got no birders. They got nobody who can take the top off the defense, and they cannot get off the press man at the line of scrimmage. So I'm not exonerating Brock Purdy. He hasn't been good. He has not been as good as he was a season ago, where he was possibly the MVP.
And that's why
okay.
I fall down on.
But everything else,
bringing in somebody.
But everything else has regressed a lot worse.
Sure.
Like Brock's regression compared to Deebo's regression has not even been close.
Okay.
The offensive line's regression from a season ago has not even been close to Brock's regression at the quarterback position. Their running back spot.
The offensive line is not good. But
exactly.
It wasn't like otherworldly last year.
It was better than it was this year.
Sure.
Aaron Banks was infinitely better last year than he was this season.
Yeah, but I also think
Trent Williams was an all-pro last season. He could
been
stay on the
so
field.
much better than whoever played right guard last year. And McKivitz has had a much better year this year than he did last year.
I don't know. I don't know
that are graded on these things that do it for a living.
McKivitz gets rolled every single week. So if all those position groups are a lot worse than they were a season ago, and Brock's regression, like if I'm looking at all the regressions, Brock regression doesn't compute the Deebo's or Bosa's. When I'm looking at the premium players on this team, Brock's been okay.
I don't even think he's had a top 5 season on the offense. You could say maybe Jordan Mason, Dominic Pooney, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know where you'd put Brock into.
I'd put Brock in the top 5. I'd put Brock in the top 5.
Maybe 5.
I'll put Brock in the top 5. I'll put him in the top 5. Let's go to.
I don't think he's been that great.
Let's go to. So, do you want to move off from him?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm bringing someone in to compete with him. I'm not being so.
So you basically want to bring
contract for another year.
So you don't want to guarantee him the starting job next season.
Depends on who you bring in. If you draft a quarterback, I don't think that guy will be ready right away. And if you bring in a veteran, like, well, who is that veteran? I don't know, but I don't think this is good enough. I just don't. And I don't think that this, all of a sudden, hey, just get healthy and next year you're a playoff team. They're all a year older.
I'm not saying that.
They're a lot more expensive.
I'm not saying that.
They got a hit on a lot of draft picks. I think they've got an uphill road here. I'm not saying the sky's falling and everything's done.
That bleak. I don't think it's that bleak for this football team, especially in this league. I don't. I truly don't.
They need linebacker. They need full defensive line. They need a free safety. I think they need a center. They need a left guard. I got to find out what's going on with Trent Williams. They're probably going to need another wide receiver, which is crazy considering how much they've spent on it. I think you need another running back. Like, there are a lot of needs on this team.
I think they'll be fine. If they have 10 needs, I think they can fill those holes. Free agency, the draft, trades. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine. Let's go to that's just my opinion. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. When I look at the schedule and the way they've lost these games, it's not like they're getting blown out. They're leading these games, or they're in these games in the fourth quarter. Hell, they blown 3 fourth quarter leads in the division alone. Division alone, they blow 3 fourth quarter leads. So
the Raiders can make an argument like that.
No, they can't. Come on, man.
Well,
now you're being silly.
No, I mean,
no, you're being silly.
But like saying, they haven't gotten blown out. Like, that's how low the bar is.
That's not how low the bar is.
What is that?
No, they've controlled the game and had leads in the fourth quarter. Come on, man.
The
Raiders are really going to bring the Raiders involved with the Niners.
That's some stuff that the Raiders would say.
The Raiders have no direction whatsoever. When I look at the totality and the context of this game, when you're saying that, I think they're going to struggle going 500 next season. And I look back at this season, I said, damn, you flipped these 3 games, you're 9-6. You're not 9-6. And you can't do that. But when you think about the Rams game in week number 3, what did them in? Was that a Brock game that did them in? Or was it special teams? Was it a bad kick by Jake Moody once again? You know what I mean? What about Arizona? Jordan Mason literally fumbled inside the 10-yard line to put the game away. Literally fumbled inside the 10.
You're right. Brock's been great.
I didn't say that. I'm not saying that at all. Like, you guys don't hear me when I say Brock is struggling, but if I give him a little compliment today, it's like, oh, my God, you're holding his water. No, I'm not. So I asked the question to everybody out there. Do you want to move off of Brock? Because that's what this is coming down to.
I think at the bare minimum, they got to bring someone else in to compete with him. Bare minimum.
For the starting job.
Sure,
you're asking somebody, so you don't even want to guarantee Brock Purdy the starting job for next season. They did that this year,
and what happened? Like, they basically let Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs, they're competing for the back. I think you got to bring it in. When they brought in Sam Darnold to compete, even though they said internally that it was his job, like, I think that competition brought the best out of everyone.
I don't think he was competing with Brock. They gave Brock the job. Day one.
It felt like you had Brock, taking days off because of the elbow and whatnot, and you had Darnold running with the ones. I thought it brought the best out of everyone.
You don't think Brock Purdy's good enough, and you want to move on from the quarterback position. Now you have Kyle Shanahan. That's a different conversation. Do you want Shanahan picking another quarterback? Because if you don't want that, and I've heard complaints about that, about Shanahan and his quarterback evaluations, then we just might as well blow up everything then. If that's the case. But we can't have measured perspectives about Brock Purdy, and that's the problem with sports media today, is that you either got to rip a guy or you're caping for him. I'm not caping for him. I'm not ripping him. I can rip him while not caping for him. You can do that, folks. There's a gray area in sports. I don't know if you knew that. Everything's just not black and white. Like, oh, he sucks or he's great. No. It doesn't work like that, especially in the game of football. You need, obviously, with these other quarterbacks, you need things around them to function at a high level. And when they don't, it falls on the quarterback. And then you say, hey, could you bail us out? Not all quarterbacks can do that. But Brock Purdy, in my opinion, hasn't been the biggest issue this year. Has he regressed a little from the MVP season? Absolutely. And I've said that every single week. I've highlighted throws every single week. I've done the same thing. I just don't yell about it. I'm trying not to yell about it.
Is he an answer?
Brock Purdy, an answer?
Is he an answer?
Yes, absolutely.
You think he's an answer?
Absolutely. You can win a lot of games with Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
I truly believe that.
I found it ironic that I'm watching that game yesterday, and I think that these guys mirror each other a lot. One person might want to take Tua over him, and some people take Brock. Brock's had way higher highs in terms of playoff success. Tua's never won a game in December, but when I watched them play on the field yesterday, they were very similar. Very similar.
I thought Brock was a better quarterback.
Okay.
I thought Brock was better. I thought
they were very
with what
similar.
He had to work with. I thought Mike McDaniel just makes it so easy for Tua to complete good passes. Then there's a health issue with Tua. Hell, the concussion problem is a real thing. Now Purdy has a shoulder and the elbow, but you know what? Purdy threw the ball well yesterday. So I'm sorry. On this football team, when I see everything that's happened and everybody, I'm just not going to blame this guy. If we want to move on from the quarterback, that's fine. I'm going to respect that.
Well, no, opinion. I don't think anyone wants to.
But
I think he wants $60 million, which is over here to the side.
Well, it's right? A report, right?
Well, that's what they're saying. We're led to believe. He wants $60 million, so that's over here to the side. I don't think he's good enough to take a team that's in transition clearly to the promised land. Right now, does that mean that I want to get rid of him? No, I want to keep what I consider to be a player that brings some value to the table. But I don't think that he's above me looking to find something better. So simultaneously, while I'm probably going to give him a big pay raise, which he's earned and he's deserved, I'm going to either draft a guy or bring someone in to push him along. And you would do that at any other position: left tackle, guard, free safety.
So you just want a quarterback. You just want a quarterback competition.
At minimum, yeah.
So you do not want to guarantee Brock Purdy the starting quarterback job next season.
Well, it depends who you're bringing in, right? Like if you bring in a washed-up Kirk Cousins to back him up, like you're not having a competition. Kirk Cousins is done, right? But something in my head is saying, I don't know if Kyle's done with that, because he's been linked to this guy for so long. I don't know what's going through Kyle's head. I have no idea.
So we're willing to move off of Brock Purdy after this season.
I'm willing to see if there are upgrades out there. And I think that every reasonable fan is trying to upgrade. Every position I'm trying to.
No doubt.
Like right now, CMC, I believe he had a singular great season in a 49er uniform, one of the great ones of all time. Am I above trying to find the next great running back? Hell no. I'm still trying to find the next dude. So it's the same thing at quarterback. Like Brock's fine for right now. I'm trying to find the next dude.
All right, find the next dude.
And I don't think I'm alone in that.
No, you're not. It's if you want to upgrade. But what is the upgrade? We know the names that are out there.
That's the hardest part.
Is Sam Darnold really an upgrade?
If you would have said that a year ago, I would have laughed at myself for suggesting
I know how you felt after Sam Darnold played that Rams game last year. Yeah, it was terrible. So I don't, we don't need to revisit that. But he's also
played a hell of a lot better.
He's played better.
At one point when Baker Mayfield was on his third team in a singular season and he was like 1 foot out of the NFL, I had a very low perspective of Baker Mayfield. He has played significantly better since then. And so my opinion of him has evolved. Aaron Rodgers was the MVP just a couple of years ago. My opinion of him has devolved. So these things can change quickly.
All right. Offensive line needs to be upgraded. You're on your fourth running back. What is it? McCaffrey? You didn't have McCaffrey. Yeah, Jordan Mason, Garindo, McCaffrey.
Eli at one point.
Eli. So you're on basically your fifth running back right now.
Yes.
Fifth running back. All right? Not a lot of quarterbacks can overcome that. You see Kansas City, they lose Pacheco. They bring in Kareem Hunt right away. Right away. Don't even mess around. That's what teams do. That's what they do. But who is willing out there to move on from Brock after this season? Like, here's another question for you. because I already know I already know your answers, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. Can you build your team around Brock Purdy?
I don't think you can. Everything has to be perfect. And they had the Avengers last year, and it was unbelievable. You know how difficult it is to keep those things together? We're seeing that this year.
But where does
like you have a once-in-a-generation running back, a once-in-a-generation left tackle, right? These are what people say about those guys.
Yeah, I don't care what people say. I don't care what people say. What are you watching? And what I'm watching is a quarterback who helped elevate these guys. Brock Purdy has something to do with Aiyuk having his best season ever. Aiyuk played with Jimmy. He didn't have a year close to the season he had a season ago.
Yeah, but they also
Chris McCaffrey played his best football in his system, right? Does Brock get any credit for that, for elevating anybody?
He was really good. He was really good.
Does he get any credit for elevating anybody?
Who said he doesn't get credit? He's really good. We were singing it. I was singing his praises week after week after week. He hasn't played like that. You're supposed to throw, and you even heard Tony Romo talking about it on the broadcast. Like, you got to throw to the open man. That's the whole offense.
No doubt.
It's not necessarily dictated on, like, I'm targeting Brandon Aiyuk 12 times a game. You throw to the open man. This year, his decision-making on who the open man is and his accuracy have not been as good.
I just don't know where this whole Bonte, you're keeping up for Purdy stuff. When just last week at Thursday Night Football, I said right now, in the month of December and November, he's not playing like the best quarterback in the NFC. All the other NFC West quarterbacks are playing better than him at that time. Doesn't mean I'm going to take him long-term over these quarterbacks, but as of now, in that moment, they were playing better football than Brock Purdy. And I mentioned how he underthrew Ricky Pearsall last week. I mentioned how he underthrew Jacob Cowing in the Kansas City game or George Kittle. So I'm not caping up for Brock Purdy. But let's hold on for a second before we start just making sweeping indictments on who he is as a quarterback. I still think he's a really good quarterback, and I understand what his record is over the last 20. I also understand what the team has looked like over the last 20 and who hasn't been on the football field in the last 20 games. Those are all facts. And we can't sit here and say, well, he has great weapons in Deebo Samuel when the previous 5 weeks everybody was ready to run Deebo out of town for having 101 receiving yards in the last 5 weeks. So which one is it? I don't do the whole wishy-washy flipping and flopping, all that stuff.
So let me ask, because you keep bringing up all the weapons. So when can we critique him?
I've been critiquing him.
No, I'm saying
critique him if you want to.
It seems like it just seems like to me that there's
who the hell?
No, these elements have to be just right for.
No. I'm not saying that at all. I mentioned over and over how he missed the second 11 throw against Seattle. To ice the game on a play action pass, and then Gino came right down the football field.
So how would you assess his season this year?
It hasn't been great.
Okay.
It hasn't been great.
Which has been my original opinion.
I've said that all the time, but you claim that I'm scared to criticize him. What? That is asinine. I'm not going to scream and yell about the quarterback. I'm not doing that. Because I understand he's not the biggest issue on this football team.
Yeah, I would argue that quarterback is the number one position in sports.
It's the number one position in sports. And the teams that are leading
pretty much every division, you can look at their quarterback play and you could say, yeah, that's why they are.
But also the other teams, too, have great defenses, great running games, great special teams,
but
great
there's a reason why it gets $60 million a year and why this guy wants $60 million a year.
Well, the owner came out and said he's going to reset the market. Not Brock Purdy. The owner said that. Get on Jed York about that. The owner said that. He said it.
Well, again, the quarterback position will always get a higher level of scrutiny than all of the others.
That's fine.
Because of the money, the allocation. We're going to see teams go in the draft right now.
How would you like me to criticize Brock?
I'm not doing it. Because what I'm saying is that when I look at quarterback play, like we talk about the New York Giants, the first thing you bring up is quarterback play. We talk about the Raiders. The first thing, man, they went with Gardner Minshew to start the year. Quarterback play.
Those are terrible quarterbacks.
Like, when I look at the Jacksonville Jaguars situation, how can you not discuss in the first sentence Trevor Lawrence?
That's
right.
Fine.
So all those teams, we start at quarterback. And it's the same thing with the 49ers. They had a lost year. Yes, there's a lot of things that are going on. The quarterback play hasn't been as good. And where this gets, I get PTSD, I start thinking about Jimmy and how he kind of fell off. And I start thinking about Kaepernick and how he fell off. And yeah, in both those situations, their bodies gave out, the team around them disintegrated. But their play also disintegrated. And so, like, I'm saying that I have a quarterback problem. Like, I don't think it's just as clear cut as
you think we have a quarterback. So you think the Niners have a quarterback problem?
What?
You think we have a quarterback problem?
I think it's up in the air. Yeah, I do.
All right.
I do. I feel like it's up in the air.
That's fine. That's fair.
At one point, I thought that this guy was a top 10 guy, locked and loaded, wasn't a question, and now I'm walking that back.
And then you'll walk it back when he balls out next season, right?
If he does, yeah. Like, I mean, why not?
David Frisco, what's happening? You thought
Brady was washed, and then Brady wasn't washed, right?
But you know what I understood, though?
What?
He didn't have the weapons around him, right? His last team in New England, he was throwing to Kimbrough.
Like,
no, it's not a cop-out. Those are the truth. Yeah, Kimbrough Tompkins. And then he goes to Tampa Bay, and he's got Gronk, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. Oh, all of a sudden his core around him got a lot better. And the offense around them in New England that last year.
Opinions aren't stagnant. I don't understand why they have to be frozen in carbonite.
I didn't say that at all.
Like his play
I'm not saying that at all. You're talking
as we assess his play. His play
are you having a conversation with the internet or me? I don't know what's going on here. I'm
just listening to what you're saying.
No, David Frisno, man. What's going on? This is insane. Dave, I apologize for hanging up on you, man. That was my bad. Go ahead.
It's good, bro. Tempers is, it's an emotional time, bro. It's been an emotional season. I get it. I was just speaking to in general, and I will say this real quick about Brock. I think if you subscribe to, Brock being the quarterback of the 49ers, I think it's just a new standard. I think that's kind of taking place with the Santa Clara 49ers, where it like good enough is the standard, and I don't subscribe to that. I subscribe to Joe Montana, Steve Young, and it's been a long time since that. But my original point I called was about yesterday in particular, and with Kyle Shanahan. I didn't understand why Dre Greenlaw was in the game. We found out before kickoff that we didn't have a shot in the playoffs, and this is twice this year that the coach, as great as he's been, these questionable decisions. Why give McCaffrey heavy workload after his injuries and Greenlaw? Like, why play him when there's nothing to play for it? Like, if you heard after the game, Fred was mad about that. If you read between the lines, he did not appreciate the fact. He was like, hey, we got to protect him from himself because Dre wants to play. As a head coach and with your cachet, bro, you got to make these decisions. And I think that's the frustration some fans have, is that, yes, he's had some great success, but I feel like he's contradicted himself with some really, really, really bad decisions during his tenure.
Well, can I ask you a question? The guy is going to be a free agent. I really like Dre Greenlaw. Isn't there an element of like, let's see if he can stay on the field for a couple of weeks before we pay him in the offseason? Because paying a guy who was hurt in the offseason hasn't really worked out for them in Christian McCaffrey. Like, because I do see that element as well. Like, I hear you on shutting him down, but I have questions on if he can stay healthy. Like, and it's fair or not. Like, the poor guy got hurt again, and it's only been 2 weeks.
If it was like an ankle sprain or something, but he's coming off an Achilles. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a major injury, and that's him. But what happened with McCaffrey, and it's like heavy workload. Like, nothing ever happened. There's no easing him in. You know what I'm saying? That's the point I was trying to make.
No, Dave, I agree with you on that. I thought last week after the Rams game, I saw enough in the first half to shut him down. I said, okay, I know Dre's back. Let's just protect him from himself. He left the Rams game with knee tightness, for crying out loud. Knee tightness. So I'm thinking to myself, is that related to the Achilles tendon? Is it not? And then he comes back and 4 plays in. You hear Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, Dre Greenlaw's out. I'm like, calf? Really? Oh, all right. Fine. Like, 57 doesn't need to play. I've seen enough from him.
Yeah,
He's
but
going to be a good
trust
linebacker.
him to be healthy next year?
Well, after an offseason, if he doesn't rush himself back, sure. Hey, look, football's a violent sport.
I know.
Football's a violent sport. You can get played. I mean, any position. You can get hurt on any single play. Hell, Dre Greenlaw didn't even get hurt on the field. He got hurt running onto the field, getting ready for a defensive huddle. You know what I mean? So
it's just I do worry about him. Like, for all of next year, he couldn't even play a full half.
No, he couldn't.
You know, like that. I have major concerns on him, and he is a great player when he's out there. I mean, it's a noticeable difference. The defense looks totally different when he's out there.